The XRP market is entering a stage that many investors have been waiting for, and 2025 is already shaping up to be one of the most important years in its history. Momentum is building across regulation, institutional adoption, and real-world payment infrastructure. But what makes the current moment even more interesting is that many of these developments are not just rumors anymore. They are being discussed publicly by major financial voices. Welcome to XRP Gold Silver Scope, where we break down XRP news in simple and clear English, so every viewer can understand what is really happening behind the scenes. Right now, one of the biggest discussions in the XRP ecosystem is the idea that Ripple may eventually challenge or even replace parts of the traditional SWIFT system. SWIFT has dominated global payments for decades, but it is also slow, expensive, and outdated compared to modern blockchain-based systems. Ripple, on the other hand, has been building infrastructure focused on speed, low cost, and global connectivity. Recent commentary from industry analysts has highlighted something very important. Ripple is already connected to major financial frameworks and payment organizations. When you start looking closely at groups like Faster Payments Initiatives and Financial Task Forces, Ripple-related names and partnerships begin to appear more often. This suggests that Ripple is not operating outside the system. It is gradually becoming part of it. What makes this even more significant is the long-term positioning. Instead of trying to completely destroy existing systems, Ripple appears to be integrating with them, improving them, and slowly replacing outdated layers with more efficient blockchain-based technology. That is a much more realistic path to global adoption. At the same time, another major development is gaining attention: the growing interest in an XRP exchange-traded fund, ETF. Institutional investors are no longer just watching crypto from the sidelines. They are actively preparing products that will allow traditional investors to gain exposure to digital assets in a regulated and simplified way. According to leading market voices from major investment firms, there is strong demand for an XRP-based ETF. This is not surprising when you consider XRP's long history, large community, and active trading across centralized exchanges. Institutions prefer assets that already have liquidity and market depth, and XRP fits that profile. Another important shift is happening at the regulatory level. Compared to previous years, there is now more openness from regulators toward discussions around digital assets. This change in attitude is crucial because regulation has always been one of the biggest barriers for large-scale institutional adoption. If this environment continues to improve, it could open the door not only for XRP ETFs, but also for broader crypto-based investment products, including diversified digital asset funds. But the most important question remains the same. What does all of this mean for XRP price and adoption in the long term? The answer depends on how quickly infrastructure, regulation, and institutional demand align. If all three move in the same direction, XRP could enter a completely new phase of growth that goes far beyond speculation. And this is only the beginning of the story. The real shift happening in the XRP ecosystem is not just about news headlines or short-term price moves. It is about something much deeper: the gradual integration of blockchain technology into the core of global finance. And according to multiple financial discussions and institutional insights, XRP is sitting right in the middle of this transformation. One of the most important themes emerging is institutional adoption. Large financial players such as asset managers, investment funds, and advisory firms are no longer ignoring crypto. Instead, they are actively exploring how digital assets can fit into long-term portfolios. Even small percentage allocations into crypto from these institutions can represent massive capital inflows due to their size. This is where XRP becomes especially relevant. Unlike many speculative crypto assets, XRP is already positioned as a liquidity and payments-focused network. It is designed for real-world financial use, including cross-border transfers, settlement systems, and banking infrastructure. That makes it more aligned with institutional needs compared to purely retail-driven assets. Another major factor is infrastructure development. Financial systems are slowly upgrading from outdated settlement models toward faster, more efficient digital rails. Traditional systems like correspondent banking are expensive and slow, often taking days to complete transactions. Blockchain-based systems aim to reduce that time to seconds. Ripple's strategy has consistently focused on this exact problem. Instead of targeting retail hype first, it has built relationships with financial institutions, payment providers, and enterprise-level systems. This approach may take longer to show visible results, but it creates stronger foundations for long-term adoption. At the same time, there is growing discussion around digital asset regulation. Clear legal frameworks are becoming a priority in multiple regions. This is important because institutions cannot fully commit to new technology without legal clarity. Once rules are defined, it becomes easier for banks and funds to integrate blockchain solutions into their operations. This regulatory progress is also directly linked to investor confidence. When uncertainty decreases, capital tends to move more freely. That is why many analysts believe that regulatory clarity could act as a major catalyst for the entire crypto market, including XRP. Another key development is the evolution of payment systems. New blockchain-based payment models are being tested that allow extremely small transactions, instant settlement, and near-zero fees. These systems are especially important for industries like retail, gaming, and digital services, where microtransactions are common. If XRP becomes part of these systems, its utility could expand far beyond traditional banking use cases. It could be used for everyday transactions, merchant payments, and global digital commerce. However, it is important to understand that adoption does not happen overnight. Even if the technology is ready, global financial systems move slowly due to regulation, compliance, and infrastructure upgrades. That is why XRP's growth story is often described as long-term rather than immediate. Still, the direction is becoming clearer. Institutional interest is rising, regulatory frameworks are improving, and blockchain payment systems are advancing. These three forces together create a strong foundation for future growth. And this leads us to the most important question: what happens when all of this finally connects at the same time? The final piece of the XRP story is where everything starts to connect. Regulation, institutional adoption, and real-world usage coming together in one ecosystem. If these developments continue moving in the same direction, XRP could shift from being a highly discussed digital asset into a fully integrated financial infrastructure tool used globally. One of the most important future possibilities is retail adoption. While institutions are often the first to adopt new financial technology, retail users are usually the largest in number. Once systems are built at the institutional level, they eventually become available for everyday people through apps, wallets, and payment platforms. We are already seeing early examples of this idea through experimental payment systems built on blockchain networks. These systems focus on simple user experiences like scanning, tapping, and instant settlement. The goal is to make digital payments as easy as using a traditional card, but faster and cheaper in the background. If XRP-powered infrastructure becomes part of this evolution, it could significantly reduce transaction costs across industries. Even small savings on millions of daily transactions can create massive economic impact over time. This is why payment efficiency is one of the strongest arguments in favor of blockchain adoption. Another major factor is the potential expansion of global payment corridors. Ripple has long focused on improving cross-border transfers, especially in regions where traditional banking systems are slow or expensive. If more financial institutions integrate this technology, money could move across countries in seconds instead of days. This would not only benefit large corporations, but also small businesses, freelancers, and individuals who rely on international payments. Faster settlement times and lower fees can unlock new opportunities in global trade and digital commerce. At the same time, the growth of crypto-based investment products like ETFs could bring a completely new wave of capital into the market. When traditional investors gain easier access to assets like XRP through regulated financial products, demand can increase without requiring users to directly interact with crypto exchanges. This is important because institutional capital tends to be long-term and large-scale. It does not move quickly, but when it enters a market, it often creates stability and liquidity. Looking ahead, the biggest question is not whether blockchain will be used in finance, but how fast and how widely it will be adopted. XRP is one of the assets positioned specifically for this transition due to its focus on speed, scalability, and financial utility. However, it is also important to remain realistic. Markets do not move in straight lines. Regulatory delays, market cycles, and global economic conditions can all influence the pace of adoption. That is why careful observation is always necessary. Still, the overall direction is becoming more visible. Institutional interest is rising, infrastructure is improving, and regulatory conversations are moving forward. These are the key ingredients needed for long-term transformation in any financial system. Final takeaway: XRP is not just being discussed as a trading asset anymore. It is increasingly being viewed as part of a future global payment framework. Whether that future arrives quickly or gradually, the foundation is clearly being built today. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to stay connected with XRP Gold Silver Scope for more deep XRP analysis, updates, and market insights as the story continues to develop.